Vienna is a city built on marble and gold palaces, opera houses, and streets that look like they were painted by angels. But right beneath your feet, under the floor of one quiet church in the heart of the old city, there is a room that time forgot to empty. A room where the dead never fully left, where nearly 4,000 bodies were laid to rest over 2 centuries, and where dozens of them never turned to dust. Their skin, their hair, their burial clothes, still intact, still waiting in the dark. This is the story of the crypt beneath St. Michael's Church. And the catastrophe above ground that pushed a city past its breaking point. To understand the horror in that crypt, you have to understand the city above it. In the late 1600 seconds, Vienna was the beating heart of the Habsburg Empire, a glittering capital of nearly 15,000 people. But glamour and filth lived side by side. The streets were open sewers. Garbage was piled in mountains at every corner. Rats moved freely through warehouses stacked with imported grain, carpets, and cloth, cargo that had traveled the trade routes from the east. Nobody knew it yet, but those rats were carrying something far more valuable than gold. They were carrying death itself. In early 1678, whispers of a strange fever began in Leopoldstadt, a poor district outside the city walls. The authorities did what governments have always done when bad news is inconvenient. They stayed silent. They called it a minor illness, a passing fever. Nothing to worry about. They were wrong. By July 1679, the plague broke through the city walls. And once it was inside, it did not stop buboes, fever, delirium, death. Sometimes within a single day, doctors walked the streets in their now infamous beaked masks, stuffed with herbs to filter the bad air they believed carried the disease. To the people of Vienna, these were not doctors anymore. They were the walking shape of death itself. Entire households vanished behind sealed, marked doors. Emperor Leopold I, the most powerful man in the empire, did not stay to fight it. He fled the city for Prague, leaving his people to face the horror alone. Before he left, he made a desperate promise to God: build a monument of gratitude. If only the plague would end. It would take 15 years to build that monument. It would take only months for the city to fall apart. By the time it was over, an estimated 76,000 people were dead, close to half the city's population. Bodies were piled into pits at the city's edge and set on fire faster than anyone could count them, faster than anyone could mourn them. Death was outrunning the living, and inside the city walls, one small parish church was about to become the final answer to a question nobody wanted to ask. Where do you put 4,000 bodies when there is no more room left on earth? In the middle of all this suffering stood St. Michael's Church, already one of the oldest buildings in Vienna, its foundations reaching back to the 1200 seconds. Beneath its polished floor lay a burial vault that had been quietly expanding for over a century, built to serve the parish families of the district. But as the plague tore through the city and the graveyards above ground overflowed, this humble underground chamber was forced to grow deeper and darker than anyone had ever intended. Down a narrow stone staircase, the temperature drops. The air changes, the gold and marble of Baroque Vienna disappears completely. What's left is silence and thousands of wooden coffins stacked from floor to ceiling. In some places, wall to wall, for 150 feet in every direction. This was the Michaelergruft, the parish crypt. And it was about to keep a secret that no one alive in 1679 could have predicted. Under normal circumstances, a body returns to the earth within a matter of years. Flesh gives way, only bone remains. But something strange happened in this crypt. The stone walls held a constant, cool temperature all year round. Hidden vents in the structure allowed a slow, steady current of dry air to move endlessly through the chamber, and the coffins themselves were packed with wood shavings, meant simply to cushion the dead for their burial. Instead, that combination became something close to an accident of nature, a silent, unintentional embalming chamber. No chemicals, no rituals, no intention at all. And yet, scattered among the thousands of ordinary skeletons, dozens of bodies simply did not decay. Skin, hair, wedding rosaries still wrapped around folded hands. Wig netting, the stitching on burial gowns 300 years old, still visible, still holding. Men and women who died in one of the darkest chapters of this city's history, silently preserved in the dark, as if the crypt itself refused to let them go. Above their heads, Vienna rebuilt itself. Palaces rose. Composers filled concert halls with music. In this very church, more than a century later, fragments of Mozart's own funeral requiem would be sung for the very first time. The city moved on, but below the floor nothing moved at all. Here is the part almost no visitor knows. Of the nearly 4,000 coffins once housed in this crypt, only a few hundred survive intact today. The rest were quietly destroyed, broken apart, used as firewood by caretakers in later centuries who saw only rotting wood, not history. The human remains inside were removed and the bones were scattered directly onto the crypt floor, then covered over with a thin layer of soil, which means that every visitor who walks through the Michaelergruft today is not just looking at the mummies in the coffins. They are walking directly on top of the forgotten dead, an entire buried population silent beneath the soil, with no coffin, no name, no marker left at all. The plague may have ended in 1679, but its shadow quite literally never left the ground beneath this church. That is the real horror of Vienna. Not one crypt, not one plague. It's the fact that this entire city was built on the same principle as that stone chamber. Bury the pain, cover it in gold, and keep living on top of it. Every cobblestone street you walk in Vienna today sits above centuries of exactly this kind of forgotten suffering. The plague column standing in the city center, the one every tourist photographs, isn't just a beautiful monument. It's a gravestone for 76,000 people standing directly above a city that chose to keep dancing. So the next time someone tells you Vienna is just palaces and orchestras, remember what's underneath, because in this city the past was never buried. It was simply preserved. If this city's buried secret gave you chills, subscribe, because Europe is full of chambers just like this one, and we're going into every single one of them.